Hey everybody, welcome to Amy Nolte Music. From the early days of writing demos with her friend Paul Simon, to being one of the staff songwriters at the Brill Building in Manhattan, to the days in Laurel Canyon with other amazing prolific songwriters of the time, to today, Carole King is a force in popular music. She's responsible for over 400 songs, recorded by over 1,000 different artists. Most early tunes were penned by King and her husband, Jerry Goffin. She says she always needed a little bit of extra help with the lyrics. Music came easy to her ever since she was a little girl, but lyrics were another story. It was a good marriage, at least for a few years. They split up around the time that they moved to California to live in Laurel Canyon. But in those early days in New York City, they were writing as many songs as they could, and some of these songs were written as early as when Carole King was 16 or 17 years old. Carole never had a notion of being a famous singer herself. She just wanted to write songs for other people. Go Away Little Girl is a song that I never realized was written by Carole King until I started researching for this video. It was recorded 3 different times and charted 3 different times. Bobby V in 1962, Steve Lawrence in 1963, and Donny Osmond in 1971. Now the lyrics are something else. Telling a little girl to go away from you because you don't want to be tempted by her charms. That's of another era, I suppose. But I do like the song. Go away, little girl. Go away, little girl. The part that I like the best, musically, comes at the end. The part that I like the best in this song happens at the end, and it goes, when you are near me like this, you're much too hard to resist. Go away, little girl, before I beg you to stay. Such a nice song. I actually learned it from Al Jarreau. That's how I know the song from one of his albums. You should look up that version. But how about that? They go to the 4 chord at the end. When you are near me like this. And we've got major 7, 5, 3, 5. And then we come up. You're much like sharp 4. Too hard to resist. That's a 1 chord with the 5 on the bottom. And then we move to the 6 dominant chord, or the 5 of 2. Go, and I love that note. That's the sharp 5 on that chord, A7 in this case, A7 sharp 5. Go away, little girl, before I beg. It builds to such a beautiful climax right at the end of the song, and we'll see as we move along that Carole King was amazing at knowing how to build a song right to the end to keep you right there in her clutches the whole way through. I'm Into Something Good was a 1964 hit for the band Herman's Hermits, and it was #1 in the UK for 2 weeks. Carole says that she wrote this song inspired completely by Brian Wilson's music, by the bouncy songs of the Beach Boys. And I think when you listen to the verse of this song especially, you can kind of conjure up the sound of Surfin' Safari or Be True to Your School or I Get Around. Listen to this verse. Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Something tells me I'm into something good. So catchy, so bouncy. And it's fine that she was inspired by Brian Wilson. Everybody takes songs from everybody. And I've listened to interviews of Carole King saying, absolutely, I heard the Beach Boys music and said, I want to write something like that. She heard Elvis's music, whoever, and said, I'd like to write something kind of like that. And I think that's really cool. In 1971, Carole King and her sometimes partner, Terry Stern, wrote a song for the Carpenters that came out on their A Song for You album. It's going to take some time. This time. Carole King actually recorded this one in 1971, the Laurel Canyon years, for her first album, Music, which didn't do so great. But apparently when Richard Carpenter heard the tune, he said, we can make this a hit.
It's gonna take some time this time to get myself in shape.
I love how it has that 1 and then it keeps the 1 in the bass and moves moves down to the flat 7, just a major chord like B flat major, but keeps the 1 in the bass over that first beginning part. After all the years we've spent, how could we make amends? That's a great little section. And then we move to the minor 6, and we do this walk down that you see all over popular music through the 20th century.
So it's one more round for experience.
We're on the road again, and it's going to take some time this time. If you listen to Carole King's version of it,
it's gonna take some time this time to get myself in shape.
Her version's absolutely lovely. It's a half step higher. It's a little bit slower. The production's completely different, just her and a piano, and I love them both. But it is nice to hear what other people can bring to her song and how she does it herself. Back when she and Jerry Goffin were working and living in Manhattan, apparently they had a housekeeper named Eva who they knew could sing, and they started having her sing demos for them. And somehow they came up with this song, Locomotion, and Eva became Little Eva.
So come on, do the locomotion with me.
She had a hit with it in 1962, but that wasn't the only time that Locomotion charted. Also 1974 by Grand Funk Railroad.
You got to swing your hips now.
And one that I actually remember, 1988 by Kylie Minogue.
Come on, baby, jump back.
I can remember being in the 6th grade and that song coming out, and like we danced to it at the dances just like we would have danced to whatever else was out that year, MC Hammer or whatever. It was a jam. And what a testament it is to anyone who can write a song and have it chart in 3 separate decades. Basically have 3 different generations grow up with the song, loving it. Jerry Wexler was a producer who Carole King got to know in the early 60s in New York City. He said in his autobiography that he had been studying African American musical culture and had been mulling over the idea of the concept of the natural man when he passed Carole King in the streets of Manhattan. He shouted to her that he wanted a song called A Natural Woman for Aretha Franklin's new album. So King and Goffin went home that night and they wrote it. Rest is history. One of the biggest hits, one of the most amazing songs for the great Aretha Franklin.
You're the king of my peace of mind.
It has this wonderful descending chord cadence. When my heart was in the lost and found, you came along to claim it. And of course, with that nice Motown kind of a groove behind it and Aretha's voice, there's no way it wasn't going to be a hit. And I guess they also gave Wexler a co-writing credit on the song for having come up with the idea in the first place. Take Good Care of My Baby was a hit for Bobby V in 1961. It was also sung by Bobby Vinton, Dion. Take good care of my baby. It's just a 1-6-2-5 kind of song. We see them all over the place in early popular music of the 20th century. Be just as kind as you can be, but and will you please remember? That's such a key part of the song. We just go right back to 1, come up, go 6 6 5 4 3 flat 3 3, because it leads us exactly where you know it's gonna lead us. There's just no other place it can go besides the 4 chord, right? And will you please remember? So it's effectively like I'm doing it in the key of F. So this is a B flat chord. For a second, it's B flat 7 with a sharp 9. And then we move to E flat. To treat her soft and tender. Takes the same motif, moves it to a much sadder place, E flat minor now. Maybe E flat minor 6. Soft and tender, because my baby belongs to me. Such crafty songwriting. Beautiful. Up on the Roof was recorded in 1962 by the Drifters. Apparently Carole King was driving around one day in her car and she had the idea for the song. And she wanted to call it a secret place. She had the concept in her head of like a place you could go to escape. But when she told her husband about it, Jerry Goffin, he decided to actually choose a location up on the roof. He said that he chose up on the roof because he had a fascination with West Side Story and the scenes that take place on rooftops. I'm glad that he did. And actually, Goffin says that that was his favorite lyric he ever penned. And the Drifters recorded it, and rest is history.
When this old world starts getting me down and people are just doomed.
This song does the exact same thing as we've already seen. 1, 6, 4, 5. When this old world starts getting me down and people are just too much for me to take. Such a nice groove. I climb right up to the top of the stairs. Does the exact same thing again. This is the 6th chord. And all my fears just fly out into space. And of course, there's the beautiful backup vocals going on.
Right into space.
On the roof's the only place to be. All this beautiful harmony going on just on the 4 chord. And darling, you can share it all with me. Little break. Keep on telling you that right smack bad in the middle of town. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall while the two of them were working on this, and just to see like, oh, we should have a break right there. Oh, and we need some rhythm in this next spot. Can we have a few quarter notes? Right smack dab. Yeah, let's say right smack dab in the middle of. It's so grooving. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen them write this one in particular. It's such a good song. I read that Shirley Alston Reeves, the lead singer of the Shirelles, didn't want to record Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow because she thought it sounded too country until she heard the arrangement that her producer made with the strings. And it became the Shirelles' classic, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow. I actually think Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow is one of the first songs that I ever learned by Carole King. And I didn't realize the weight of the lyrics when I learned them for sure, not until I got much older. But Jerry Goffin penned this lyric, and Carole King gives him credit for being able to understand the way that a woman feels. I don't know if you've ever thought about these lyrics. Actually, there were some radio stations that banned the song because they said the lyrics were too sexually charged. Tonight you're mine completely. Yeah. You give your love so sweetly. I love the chords here. We come down to the 5 of 6. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes. And then the question that I'm sure, millions of females have asked over the years when they give themselves to somebody completely, will you still love me tomorrow? And whether or not that has ever, rung true for you, or you've even thought about the lyric, you may not have. And I'm going to guess that you haven't, if you're male especially. I might be wrong about that. But I think you still love the song, and I think there's still a sadness about it that permeates, whether or not you've actually ever thought about what it's about. The Shirelles had a #1 hit with it in 1960. It was actually the first #1 hit by a black female group. It appears on the Tapestry album with James Taylor and Joni Mitchell singing backups, and James plays guitar too.
Will you love me tomorrow?
The Four Seasons, Linda Ronstadt, Roberta Flack have all covered it, and most recently, Taylor Swift sang it in 2021 at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It's timeless. It will always be a good song. In 1963, the Chiffons had a hit that went to #5 that Carole wrote called One Fine Day. This is a simple song, but I'll tell you, out of every song that I've been researching, this one has stuck in my head more than the others, by far. The Chiffons recorded it with a really catchy little shooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-doo-bop-bop. It sets the mood right up from the beginning, and I have a feeling if you were a teenager in 1960, this was just a banger. And And we don't see any crazy chords going on here. One fine day. That's the 1, then the 5. Da, da, da. Now the minor 6. Now, this is where we have something interesting. We go to the 4 chord, but it's minor. Da, 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 da. One fine day. I feel like Carole King was just like, she was just exploring this world of doo-wop music. It was just a confluence of musics coming together at this time. And she had so much in her, just in her, that wanted to come out. And I'll bet she just died when she thought of this minor 4 chord because it makes a song that, like I said, was probably something everybody just wanted to dance to. It gives it that tiny bit of melancholy. It makes your heart hurt just a little bit while you're dancing. In 1967, the Monkees had a hit with Pleasant Valley Sunday. Lead vocals were sung by Mickey Dolenz.
Local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song.
The guitar intro was played by Michael Nesmith. And it reached number 3. Your local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn a song. It takes the same exact thing that we saw in the song that the Carpenters recorded, where we have 1, and then we just drop down the right hand, keep the bass on the root, and we do it again. And the melody builds so nicely, and it's all about suburbs. Like, I think they just had this disillusion with what the suburbs were trying to be and what they actually were. And Goffin again penned a great lyric. To serenade the weekend squire who just came out to mow his lawn. Cool lyrics. So it's a G chord over an A chord, and they use that G chord to be the 5 of the new tonal center, which is not A anymore, it's C major. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. So the relationship between A major and C major, it might be unprecedented in popular music before this song. I bet it was a brand new idea and really cool to use the way that it drops here to lead you to a place you don't expect to go. Like, really, you would expect to go out to mow his lawn. You expect to go to this chord. Another pleasant, right? And if I did it, you might not have even known that it was wrong, but it doesn't. Out to mow his lawn. Hear where it wanted to go? Another. It's a whole step lower. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Yeah. Makes it sophisticated. And the Monkees had, again, a banger with it. Now, after Carole King moved to Laurel Canyon, she split from her husband, she made all these new friends, she was a single mom, she decided to record an album of her own. Although music wasn't a great hit, she had hits on it that other people played, Tapestry was. I'm sure you're all aware of it. I could make a whole other video about Tapestry, and I probably will at some point. You know songs from Tapestry. You know, I feel the earth move under my feet, I feel the sky tumbling down. Such a mood on that one. And you know, well, it's too late, baby, now it's too late, though we really did try to make it. And you know, so far away, doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore? Maybe my favorite of all the Carole King songs. You also know You've Got a Friend, which James Taylor loved so much he had to record himself. Other people also recorded it. It's Too Late hit number 1 on the Billboard charts and stayed there for 15 weeks. It won Song of the Year. She was the first female to ever win that Grammy. Tapestry won 4 Grammys in all. And it wasn't the end for Carole King. She has been performing and writing for about 7 decades now. One song that I love that you might not know that she wrote was Chicken Soup with Rice for the Really Rosie TV show, children's show in the 70s.
Sipping once, sipping twice, sipping chicken soup with rice.
Her songs have been used in movies.
Now and forever, you are a part of me.
TV shows.
Where you lead, I will follow anywhere.
And she even had her life turned into the 2013 musical Beautiful. I can't say enough about Carole King, her writing, her sensitivity, all her political work, everything. She seems like a beautiful human. I'm so glad she's still on the planet. If you ever see this video, Miss King, thank you so much for all you have done for popular music. Like I said, she wrote over 400 songs, recorded by over 1,000 artists. It's really something. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time on Amy Nolte Music.